Sometimes I think the most compelling aspect of the Beatles story is how they were able to attract just the right people to them. People who wanted to help them, people who believed in them, people who loved them, and would eventually put the Beatles' needs above their own. It was like people just wanted to be around them. They wanted to be part of whatever was going on. And I think the consensus is that the Beatles had something that was more than their musical abilities. And I think George Martin's experience with them best illustrates what I'm talking about here. When he first heard them, he didn't think they had it. He didn't think that they were hit material. But he said they had tremendous charisma, those guys. I fell in love with them, really. They were cheeky and they had this sparkle. We call it aura these days. And when you're with them, you feel enriched in their presence. And when they go away, you feel a bit diminished. I feel you, George.
And they came into the studios and it was like electricity. They had this wonderful atmosphere. They had tremendous charisma. They had no great songs with them, but they gave you the feeling that you felt so good for being with them. Mm-hmm. And when they left, you felt as though something had gone away. I thought, well, if they had this effect on me, they're going to have an effect on everybody else.
When the Beatles went to Hamburg, they instantly clicked with Astrid, Klaus, and Jürgen Vollmer, and they formed lifelong friendships. And those friendships added new artistic dimensions that would shape the future of the Beatles. And Astrid, Klaus, and Jürgen, they all created iconic images of the Beatles. George and Paul were already friends with Neil Aspinall, and while he wasn't starstruck, he was definitely all in. He was just that kind of man. He believed in what they were doing, believed in them, committed himself to always being there, doing whatever was needed, wearing whatever hat was needed. He defended them, fought for them. He was their confidant. He was their incredibly loyal friend from beginning to end. They were lucky to have Neil on their side.
Something tremendous came over, and I was immediately struck by their music, their beat, and their sense of humor actually on stage. And even afterwards, when I met them, I was struck again by their personal charm.
Brian Epstein believed in the Beatles probably more than they believed in themselves at that first formal meeting they had in 1961. When Brian first heard them, he said that he liked them enormously and he liked their sound. They were fresh and they were honest, and they had what I thought was a sort of presence and star quality. Or more, he sensed they could have that star quality. He saw and felt the potential. He told them they would be bigger than Elvis. He told a lot of people they would be bigger than Elvis. He told Decca's Dick Rowe they were going to be bigger than Elvis when Decca gave the Beatles a thumbs down. I think he saw himself in the Beatles, the desire to make it big, the desire to prove himself, and he wrote of the magic of the Beatles. There is something a little outside our normal experience in the happening of the Beatles, and I believe it is valuable to make the point. It may be magic, or it may be some strange organic combination. Whatever it is there, and it goes beyond Twist and Shout or She Loves You. It was that magic that drew people to them. And in 1965, Brian Epstein told journalist Larry Kane that the kids of the 2000s would be listening to the Beatles music. Brian Epstein, he believed, and he helped make that dream come true for all of us.
Who's going to be mad enough, up in the Austrian Alps in the middle of winter, right, to get into this ice-cold water, right, at 6 o'clock in the morning, right, with a pair of swimming trunks on, right? Hey, Mal, do you fancy a gig?
Mal Evans acted as their father, mother, brother, friend, guide, collaborator, handyman, cook, roadie, fixer, protector, you name it, man. He was drawn to their music, befriended them, and eventually became an essential, beloved member of their inner circle, almost like magic, essential to their success. He gave them exactly what they needed. They needed someone they could rely on, like someone they could trust. His credo was basically, you make the music, and I'll do anything in the world I can to make you comfortable. Mal is embedded in their music in more ways than one.
I heard they were coming to Manchester Odeon, and I'd heard the Odeon Cinema, and we didn't cover, we theatre critics so-called, didn't cover one-night stands of pop stars because there was no continuity. But anyway, I bought tickets at £1 each, I think. And Jerry and the Pacemakers had been on before, and Roy Orbison preceded the Beatles.
Derek Taylor was a journalist in 1963 and had been for over 10 years. When he felt the need to cover this happening thing in May of 1963, it was the Beatles performing at the Manchester Odeon, and he attended that performance. And the next day that he wrote that the Liverpool Sound came to Manchester last night, and I thought it was magnificent. Indecipherable, meaningless nonsense, of course, but as beneficial and invigorating as a week on the bench of the pierhead overlooking the Mersey. Like, Derek was now under their spell, man, and he would remain a lifelong friend of theirs. And I think he comes closest to being able to put into words the magic of the Beatles. And he would know, being under their spell, because 20 years later, 20 years after that performance, he wrote, "It's always seemed to me that the true essence of the Beatles is to be found distilled in From Me to You. Boy-girl love song it may have been, but it was also a universal offering, spelled out with Liverpool directness and warmth, and picked up by a whole generation, including from that night on, Joan and me." Joan is his wife. Though maybe at the wrong end of that generation, we were nevertheless open thereafter to the possibilities of being truly young in heart. And I think that what Derek is saying here is that the Beatles were giving us these valuable intangibles like love, inspiration, and hope, and like a belief in the possibilities, like encouraging all of us to dream. And I think it has to be said that the fact that the four of these guys, like John, Paul, George, and Ringo, I think it's almost like unfathomable that they all were attracted to each other and somehow found each other, like, in the first place. The Beatles, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, they may not have been the best musicians in the world, but they have that rare something.
I was quite impressed with his devotion and his zeal for this group, which made me want to see them. I hadn't got a great deal to lose. And of course, when I met them and saw them, worked with them, I got the same kind of feeling that he'd got. It was a kind of falling in love business, because they had this tremendous charisma, which nobody else seemed to have recognized. And I was puzzled by it. But there we are.
That rare something that attracted just the right people to them. It was probably the same thing that attracted each of them to the other in the first place. It was that star quality, that honesty, that freshness, that hope, that warmth, or like George Martin called it was like that sparkle. And not just when they were performing. It was like you can feel it. Something that went beyond the lyrics, like Brian Epstein said.
Certainly, I felt that we had something totally different. Even if it was just our attitude. It's just some little magic that when you get certain people together, it makes fire or it makes dynamite.
It's like Beatles Magic, man. That's what it is. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really and truly appreciate it. And until next time, peace and love one another. Take care. Beatles Magic. That's what it is. Absolutely.
And then when he had to do it again, okay, take two. Oh no.